Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers and then we'll start our Thursday's class. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Swah Tatsavitra Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Asto Ma Sadgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityorma Mritam Gamya Om Senavavatu Senabhanaktu Saviryam Karvavahi तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहे ओम शांति 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 ओम. Let's open our books. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So today we're going to start the section 5 of chapter 2. And last week I was telling you that the name which our rishis have given it to this Brahman is Madhu Brahman. Madhu. And in this section, we will learn that everything is dependent on everything else, which is called interdependent. The infinite number of objects and concepts of this universe are connected with each other. It's almost like a threads in a network. They're all connected. And when you contemplate on this further, you will realize that all this is nothing but the supreme reality. Atma Brahm. So this is the essence of the instructions in this section of the Upanishad, which is called the Madhu Brahman. Madhu means honey. And honey is considered as the sweetest thing. And the sweetest and the dearest to us all is our own self. If you think about it, the Atma. Perhaps this may be one of the reasons to name this section as Madhu Brahman, the Atma, the honey of the honey, being the subject matter directly dealt with in this section. We will see a sublime and magnificent description of the true nature of the universe and the reality, its essence. Everything from the creator, Brahma, down to the so-called most insignificant beings, like the ants and the worms, and also that which we in our ignorance designate as insentient matter, such as rocks and mountains, is organically and vitally connected. So there is an interconnection of everything. Because to consider them as separate or unconnected entities is the height of human folly. It's almost a sin. And that's why suffering comes on this mortal existence. When we start thinking that we are better than others, we are separate than others. That's why it's wisely said by masters that all this is Brahma. The so-called particular object does not really exist. When a person touches an object, a person is touching the whole cosmos. And when a person sees something, it's not an isolated object. In fact, a person is seeing the whole universe. Everything here and everywhere is honey, the Atma, one's own self. That which one loves most, the self of all. This is what we're going to learn in this section. Then he's going to talk about the earth element, which contains all other elements, which go to make up the universe, and everything, including beings, contains earth, the Prithvi element. The conscious luminous principle in the earth is the same that is present in all. After that, he'll talk about the other four elements also. All of them are included in the other. This is what we learned earlier in other scriptures, Panchikaran. It's a mixture of all of them. Then further, he will talk about the pain and the sorrow also, due to our forgetting the ultimate cause that is present in all the effects, the individual objects or incidents. He says that forgetfulness is the bondage. And this forgetfulness of your real nature is what? Ignorance, avidya. That's where the pain starts. So that's why, as practitioners, we need to remember the cosmic entity as the essence of anything and everything, and the connecting link between any two objects, thoughts, and the ideas. So this is like an interconnection and interdependence in this universe. It's almost like the spokes of a wheel. It's a belly and the hub. And we'll see that it's a rather long section. In the conclusion, Yajnavalkya will say that it is the Supreme Being who appears through his power of Maya as the umpteen beings and objects and concepts. And through our practices, this is what we need to experience. This is his creation. And the meditation on the honey, that means the Atma, reveals this mystery. This meditation reconciles all contradictions which appear in our mind. Meditation on that resolves all problems. Meditation on that Atma brings about the supreme peace and bliss. This is what we're going to learn in this beautiful section. So let's start with the verse number 1. And in our little books, it is on page 158, section 5. Iyam prithvi sarvesham bhutanam madhu. Asyai prithve sarvani bhutani madhu. Ya cha ayam syam prithivyam tejomyo amritmaya purushaha. Ya cha ayam adhyatmam Shrirah tejomyo amritmaya purushaha. Ayam eva so yo ayam atma idam amritam, idam brahm, idam sarvam. This earth is honey to all beings, and all beings are honey to this earth. The bright, immortal being who is in this earth, and with reference to the body, the bright, immortal being who is associated with the body, these four are only the self. This self-knowledge is the means of immortality. This substratum of the above four is Brahma. This knowledge of Brahma is the means of becoming it all. So this is the very first mantra, which really forms the basis upon which the whole theme elaborated in this section rests. So this Rishi has put up the fundamental concept of the unity of existence. The Upanishad has attempted to draw out this unity from the fact of the close interdependence and undeniable mutual correlation among the component aspects that go to make up this phenomenal existence as a whole. So the existence is inclusive of its two aspects, the consciousness and the unconscious. Both of these aspects are again considered in their individual as well as cosmic standpoints. So this first mantra gives us very clearly the unity of the gross universe, which we call it macrocosm, and the body of the individual, the microcosm. And the five great elements in their permutation and combination constitute the common factors behind both, in the microcosm and in the macrocosm both. Then taking the conscious aspect, this Upanishad considers the mutual correlation of the cosmic being, Ishwar, and the individual Jeev dwelling in the body. And it's trying to establish the identity of the two. This is done by pointing out the mutual cause and effect relationship based upon the analogy of the honey and the bee. We have seen in the previous sections the cause and effect. And this effect of identity is arrived in this section. So overall identity of this phenomenal existence and the absolute being, out of whom all things have sprung, by whom all things are sustained, and into whom all things are ultimately unified, is declared. That's why that a Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, they are all part of Brahma. They are not only working in the outside somewhere, constantly they are working in us, in this individual body also. The cells are being created. Then they are sustained. The old ones are dying too. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Over here, he is talking about this earth also. Earth means the earth element, which is the grossest of all elements. Because earth element we can see earth element we can perceive with the senses. Earth is the support for all creatures because it's helpful to them. And by creatures is meant all that moves and that moves not. Just as a beehive is the abode of many bees, so this earth is the abode of all beings, where we all perform karmas and enjoy the fruits of our karmas too. The earth being unconscious and gross is the object of enjoyment for all creatures who are conscious. And that's why we say that through that consciousness we enjoy. Just as the earth is like honey to all creatures are honey or effect of this earth. All creatures are chiefly composed of earth, so earth element, and the other four elements being only the minor ingredients. All creatures have earth as their cause because physical life springs from earth. Of course, there is a mixture of water and other elements. So these two, earth and creatures, are composite effects of each other. So this is a viewpoint of cause and effect. They are mutually related and interdependent. So this is what the message Rishi Yajnavalkya is giving it to us. So the subtle body, we have learned in the previous sections, composed of 17 principles. And that subtle body shines with the light of consciousness. And from the moment of release from mortal fetters attains immortality. It is like honey to all creatures. Why? Because it is a subtle body which is essential factor. Even after death or destruction of the physical body, the subtle body keeps on living. It keeps on moving from one body to another. Until when? Until the subtle body attains a final release by the knowledge of the self. So when we know who we are, we can release this subtle body. When the subtle body attains freedom, further incarnations would not materialize. We got to keep this point in view, because we often wonder what really brings us back. The subtle body, because we did not release it yet. So just as the subtle principle is essential for all beings are essential for the subtle principle also. It has to be borne in mind that all creatures are essential since they represent the field of reincarnation and action of this subtle principle. So this is the interconnectedness which I was talking about earlier. The subtle principle cannot become embodied if there are no creatures, no beings. So the beings sustain the reincarnation of the subtle principle in physical bodies, and they are interrelated. We cannot see any creature without the subtle principle in it. In the same way, the subtle principle cannot incarnate and manifest itself in the absence of a physical medium. So this Rishi says, which is this shining immortal person in the earth is the honey of all creatures. All creatures are honey to him. And only through meditation we can really grasp this idea. That means we got to disconnect from the outer, bring our mind to this subtlety, this very subtle principle. And about the physical being who is identified with the subtle body, this mantra says that it is also the honey for all creatures. Because all creatures have got bodies. There is no being as such who is devoid of a body consisting of gross elements. Because normally we think that bodies are only the human bodies or at the most animal bodies. But we got to take our mind towards all the bodies. There can be no being without a physical body and no physical body without a creature, a being. It is almost like a table and a wood. Table is inseparably related with wood, and they are not two different objects. So the physical being is inseparably connected with the creatures, and the creatures are identical with the physical bodies. So these two effects are the composite, are blended in each other. And what are the four? Four are the earth, the beings, the subtle principle in the earth, and that in the beings. Let me repeat again. The earth, the beings, the subtle principle in the earth, and that in the beings. They stand as composite effects in relation to the soul. For the time being, they are described as having a mutual relation of cause and effect, each becoming the cause of the other in turn. So that's how they are interconnected. Everything is a cause of certain effect and effect of a certain cause. Every object in this universe is the effect of the supreme cause. And by itself, it makes a subject-object distinction on account of its relation with other objects. When a person experiences, that person becomes the subject. And when he is experienced, he becomes an object. Think about it. So both subject and object are blended in a single personality. So similar is the case with the cause and effect also. You can understand this with another analogy. The seed is the cause of the tree. And the tree in turn is the cause of the seed. We can understand it very clearly with this example. Both cause and effect are blended in each. From here, we can postulate that all objects which are effects of some causes and which in turn are causes for some effects are essentially the effects of the ultimate, which is a causeless cause. So that's where this Rishi is taking our mind to. So this analogy of honey, which he has used, really brings home to us that all objects, despite their mutual cause and effect relationships, are nothing but the composite effects of the supreme cause. The creatures, the earth, the consciousness in the creatures, and the consciousness in the earth, these fourfold effects are blended in one another. They are all blended in one cause. And he called it a honey relationship. Interblended, interrelated, and interdependent. And what makes us separate from it? Our own ego. That's why they say ego is the cause of all the problems. Otherwise, we are all connected. We are all part of one. And ego is the biggest ignorance. And through ignorance, we don't understand this fourfold connection. So when this Rishi declared in this mantra, Ayam eva sa. See, part of that mantra, I'm sure you saw that. Ayam eva sa, it is towards the end. Ayam eva sa yo ayam atmaha idam amritam idam brahma idam sarvam. So this declaration, this is verily that reveals the essential nature of all objects. The fourfold visions, which represent the condition that exists in this phenomenal creation, is denoted by the word this, yam. And this creation, which is an effect of interaction among the fourfold entities, is none but that self who's the essential, real inner consciousness, denoted by the term yam, that. But declaring this is that, the essential, the underlying reality of the empirical universe, we are reminded of the declaration in this mantra, where the self is the subject matter of discussion, the self, yam. So that refers to the self about which it has been declared, this all is this self. So again, the four sentences. And what are those four sentences? Mahavakyas. You are familiar with those. This is indeed that which is the self. This is immortal. This is Brahma. And this is the all. All these Mahavakyas, they remind us that this universe represented by, said this fourfold division, in essence is the self, which is Brahma. The all, the immortal. So in the course of Yajnavalkya's instructions to his wife Maitreyi, it has been said that this Atma is to be realized through hearing, reflection, and meditation. Shravan, Manan, Nidhi, Dhyasan. That's what we learned in the last section. The same Atma is to be identified with the self, which is under discussion in this section too. And that immortal who has been referred to by Maitreyi and explained by Yajnavalkya is the same as the immortal who is declared to be the ultimate cause of the fourfold division. So Brahm, who was dealt in the last section as Murt and Amurt, you remember form and formless, by the declaration of not this, neti, neti. The same thing he's discussing here in this mantra. The ultimate causeless cause of all interrelated cause and effect. And this ultimate cause of the entire universe is the same through whose knowledge the knowers of Brahma attained identity with. And we term itself the immortal, Brahma, the all, non-dual reality, whatever term we use, it's taking us towards the same place. So the ultimate reality should be the cause behind the entire co-relativity which exists among the divisions. The divisions which we see. It's almost like we superimpose a person on some kind of a stump which we see in the distant, and we think there's a person. Through our own erroneous perception. And this is the superimposition we have done. There's only one Brahma, but we have superimposed out of our own ignorance these many. So bottom line is, reality is Brahma. There's no duality, no separate entity other to it. And through the meditation on the vital connection that exists among earth beings, consciousness in the earth, and the consciousness in the beings, we can conclude and we can experience that all the four are the self and self alone. That's the message we are getting from this beautiful mantra. There are 13 more mantras up to the mantra number 14, where this Rishi is giving us the similar meditations. In the place of the earth mentioned in this first mantra, the remaining four elements and other subtler and abstract cosmic entities are taken up for meditations. That's what's being discussed. And the same conclusion is arrived at. Okay, so first 14 mantras of this section, just try to understand them in the same kind of a light. So let's do one more mantra, at least, and then the rest of them will touch upon next week, and we'll rather go a little quickly because the essence is the same, the understanding is the same. So now the second one, page number 160. Ima apaha. See, apa means water. Imaha apaha sarvesham bhutanam madhu. Asam apam sarvani bhutani madhu. Yacha ayam swapsuh apsuh tejo myo amrit mya purushaha. Yacha ayam admatmam retas tejo myo amrit mya purushaha. Ayamev soyo ayam atmaha idam amritam idam brahma idam sarvam. This water is honey to all beings. And all beings are honey to this water. So with the bright immortal being who is in this water, and with reference to the body, the bright immortal being who is identified with the seed, these four are only the self. This self-knowledge is the means of immortality. The substratum of the above four is Brahm. This knowledge of Brahm is the means of becoming all. So water is now taken up for meditation. According to another mantra, it is said that water has its special abode in the semen. It says water becomes a semen and entered the member. In this present mantra which we are talking about, the fourfold divisions for contemplation are the gross principle in water, that in that beings, the subtle principle in water, and that which sustains and help each other. So the gross form of water and the creatures are vitally connected. The subtle consciousness in the water and that in the creatures, especially manifested in the semen, are like honey to all beings, and all beings are honey to them. All these are effects of the supreme cause. So he is taking our mind towards the essential nature, which is Brahma, the self, the immortal. So that's why when we do the yajnas also, we take the water in our hand. What do we say? We say, this is Amrita. For ordinary mind, it's just water, just a jal. But for a person who is meditating, thinking deeply, says, this is Amrita. I see the God in that water also. It's not separate from Brahma. There's a oneness. Just like a earth was Brahma, water is Brahma too. So that's how we connect with all. Instead of keeping ourselves separate, we connect with all. And we'll see that the next few verses, the same thing. Let's look at one more and then we'll stop it here. Verse number 3. Ayam agni sarvesham bhutanam madhu. Asya agnehe sarvani bhutani madhu. Yacha ayam asmin agnyo. Tejo myo amrit mya purushaha. Yacha ayam adhyatmam vangam. Tejo myo amrit mya purushaha. Ayam eva so yo ayam atmaha idam amritam idam brahm idam sarvam. So this last part, when it says idam amritam, idam brahm, idam sarvam. This fire is honey to all beings. And all beings are honey to this fire. So with the bright, immortal being who is in this fire, and with reference to the body, the bright, immortal being who is identified with the organ of speech, these four are only the self. This self-knowledge is the means of immortality. The substratum of the above four is Brahm. This knowledge of Brahm is the means of becoming all. So now through the help of this Agni element, fire. Fire has its special abode in the organ of speech, in this body of human being. Speech. That's why it said fire became speech and entered the mouth. So the meditation is on the identification of the gross form of fire, the beings, the consciousness in fire, and the consciousness in the beings. So these are the four. When he says four, that's what it means. So the gross form we are familiar with. When we see the flames, when we see the colors of the flames, that is the gross form of the fire. Each one of these is like honey to the other. All the four are correlated. And then he says, all the four are nothing but the Atma, Brahma. Idam Brahma, idam Sarvam, idam Amritam. So the takeaway from so far this section is no different than the rest of the scripture which we have been studying. This is all Brahma. Feel the interconnectedness. Bring the wall of ego down. When we do that, we will feel the oneness. Wall of ignorance, wall of ego. This year I have done many marriages. When I study these Upanishads, I understand some of the rituals which we do in our weddings also. There's a tradition to keep a curtain between the bride and the groom in the beginning of the marriage. I'm sure you are familiar with that antarpat. Then antarpat is dropped down. Symbolically, what does it mean? Symbolically, it means that bring your egos down. Erase this separation. And what do we do after that? The bride and the groom, they exchange the garland. When they exchange the garlands, they accept each other as their own. So through these rituals, these rishis, they are taking us towards that higher apex, which is the same for all of us. So all these walls of separation, we need to bring down with the help of our meditations. Because in reality, we are all one. We'll start from verse number 4 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.